Hey, how's it going? James Harper here with AgencyFlare.com. I wanted to jump on screen really fast and take a few minutes of your time and talk about the current world of prospecting and just outbound sales. Obviously, we know business isn't usual right now. Times are a little bit more slow, times are uncertain, prospects are dealing with their own challenges in their own industry and personal lives due to just the uncertainty of life right now. But I wanted to make a few quick points about the power of outbound follow up and really the power of lack thereof if you're not following up. So, 5 years ago, I came across this data set here. I actually found it on Reddit. It's from the National Sales Association. I couldn't find the original source, so I created our own AgencyFlare slide. But regardless, this data is some of the best data I've ever seen when it comes to sales and prospecting. 5 years ago, to give you guys some perspective, we were in a big prospecting sales blitz for our own company. We were really at kind of a fork in the road, a big turning point to where we needed to increase business, not only for ourselves, but for a lot of these outbound marketing strategies we were putting in place for clients at the time. So with that being said, we obviously did a little bit of research before we just jumped in the pool completely, came across this data set. And obviously, when you look at this data just from a bulleted perspective, everything seems to make sense. It's pretty straightforward. Okay, but we wanted to go out there and test to see if this data was true. We wanted to either prove it right or prove it wrong. And fast forward 5 years, hundreds of campaigns later, a lot of outbound sales experience under our belt now. And I can say with full confidence that this data here is some of the most powerful data I've ever came across because it's 100% true. Obviously, you guys can see the data for yourself, and I'm just going to point out a few quick things that really jump out to me when I look at other companies' outbound strategies and when I look at our own strategies, what's worked. Let's take this first bullet right here, how it talks about 48% of salespeople never follow up with a prospect. Think about that. If 48% of our competition literally is never going to contact one of our prospects a second time, just by us doing the due diligence of making a second, not a fifth or a sixth, a second contact, we automatically increase our chances of winning more business. That's outranking and outcompeting almost half of our competition by a second follow-up. It's not that hard to make one more phone call, send one more LinkedIn message, one more email, one more subtle touch point in your process because we know 48% of the people aren't actually being followed up with by other salespeople in our own industries. Another point I wanted to make out here where it says 2% of sales are made on the first contact. This is absolutely true, and actually I would argue it's probably lower. In the B2B realm, you guys know as well as I do, there's very few home runs when it comes to outbound sales. If you're selling a high-end solution, I can't think of a time personally when I'm selling a $1,000 plus solution out there where a sale's made on the first contact in an outbound cold sense. Obviously, maybe that statistic's a little bit more true if there's referrals coming in the door, etc. But in the outbound sales game, guys, I don't expect to hit home runs. I'm all about stringing together base hits and compounding those small wins into obviously bigger wins. And then the third thing I'm going to highlight here, and this is obviously, I think, the one metric that absolutely truly matters the most, and it's the last one. It's the conversion metric. We're going to talk about how 80% of sales are made from the 5th through 12th contact. So let's think about that here. We know that 48% of our competition is never going to follow up with one of our prospects. We know that home runs are very few and far between in outbound sales, if ever, that we can't expect sales to happen in the first, second, third contact. But we know that 80% of our wins are going to come contacts 5 through 12. So again, 5 years ago, I was out to set this data to test this data and see if it was true or false. And during our first campaign, I can say with high confidence that all of our sales in campaign 1 5 years ago, so 100% of our sales came actually contact 8th through 12th. So it took us 8 contacts at minimum to set the meeting. And then obviously once the meetings were set, and what we were selling at the time had a semi-long conversion cycle, and it ended up following between 8 to 12 contacts. So we knew by following up, we'd outrank 50% of our competition, and we knew if we made it to the 5th contact, we were going to increase our percentages of a sale by at least 80%. And here we are. So I always just thought it was kind of not just a nice data set, it was one of the most powerful data sets that we've ever came across. So with that being said, I just wanted to kind of jump on camera here, talk about the lack of follow-up I'm seeing right now in the outbound sales game. Obviously, we know business as usual isn't usual right now. We know what's happening in the world of B2B sales is uncommon. There's a lot of businesses struggling right now. There's a lot of people going through challenging times, and we have to be cognitive of that. We have to be very empathetic, transparent, and real about that. That doesn't take away from the fact that we can't have a really great follow-up game. By following up with prospects, especially when your intent is to serve and give value, there's absolutely no problem with that. Actually, I think anymore, it's actually showing, 1, you're assertive, 2, you care, and 3, you're going to be there for the long haul. You're not just someone trying to get lucky sending a cold email. So here we are. Obviously, guys, we're in challenging new times, but I don't want that to discourage our follow-up game. I want to see us all win here, and I know one of the most fundamental missed steps when it comes to outbound sales is the lack of follow-up. I think especially SDRs, they give up too quickly. If we don't get a cold prospect on the first try and we're having to leave a voicemail, or we don't get an email response, it seems like we just give up too fast. Obviously, the message here is not only not to give up, but stay persistent. At least give them 5 touch points. Honestly, I recommend giving them 8 to 12 touch points, and see if you're starting to see a difference in your prospecting and your appointment setting. So anyways, just wanted to kind of share this. Obviously, this is not only sexy data, it's true data. And for more information like this, join our Outbound monthly sales newsletter, guys, where we talk about the most transparent, actionable outbound sales content around. That's at AgencyFlare.com. We don't believe in spamming you. We've built a small but engaged, very niche community of startups, medium-sized businesses, and sales reps, sales pros that have a passion for cold prospecting. Because our goal at the end of the day, my personal goal, is to help you go from cold to close, get more cold business, because we can only rely on organic referral and inbound so much, to where we have to create opportunity versus wait for opportunity. So again, I'm James Harper, AgencyFlare.com. Wherever you're seeing this video, let me know if you find this data to be true for you as well. And yeah, look forward to hearing from you. All right, thanks. Stay well.